I've been preaching this for some time. If you want to stay healthy and live longer, you should be incorporating NAD into your health regimen. Whether it's intravenous, intranasal, or oral, NAD taps into the mitochondrial theory of aging and can turn back the clock within your cells. But what about NAD in your skin? Well, there are now products that utilize the power of NAD, peptides, and more to regenerate skin cells, essentially reversing the effects of aging. Our guest today is an entrepreneur in the biohacking and beauty field and is passionate about performance optimization and skin health. This is the story of young Goose with Amitay Eshel. Amitay, great to have you on.
It's great to be on.
Listen, I always like, this is called Your Health, Your Story. I got to start with your story.
Mm-hmm.
You come from Israel, you got into this health business and everything. How did that come about? Because everyone has a unique story of how they get into this wellness, health, medical field.
That's an interesting question because growing up, first of all, I had no idea what I'm going to do in life, and I didn't feel like life is just waiting for me to come and conquer and become super successful. No, it was actually my dream when I was a teenager was if someone could just give me like a glimpse to my life when I'm like 35, just to see that everything is going to be okay.
Right.
And I didn't mess it up colossally. So it wasn't I would say something that I was interested in necessarily from a young age. Growing up, obviously you wanna look cool and have the biceps and the abs. So I got interested in fitness when I was a teenager, and my inclination is always to kind of understand the underlying elements, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in, I studied the biology of what's happening over there in the body and how to kind of, how to trick my body into growing muscle mass, right? Because I was a scrawny kid. That's maybe the first experience I had with health and fitness on a cellular level, on a biological level. Obviously, have engaged in martial arts and I mean playing with friends my whole life, but that was the first time I was interested in the underlying mechanisms of that. Then I joined the military. I was in the Israeli Special Forces. I was part of a reconnaissance force within my special operations unit. Ended up heading the reconnaissance base of our unit, of this special kind of land commando of the Israeli military. And that, let me just tell you, it doesn't give you a lot of life tools or tools to kind of succeed. It doesn't teach you how to program any software or anything like that. But what it does teach you is how crucial is team building and team, communication and just working within a team and obviously building teams. So that was what I had to offer when I got out of the military. Got out when I was almost 24 years old. And most of my peers are being snagged to, jobs in the tech field in Israel. Israel is called the startup nation. So that's normally what people do. That's where the money is as well. But being a contrarian, I didn't want to do what everyone else is doing. And from bouncing around, what I got recruited to do and that I really liked, I started basically the first red light therapy company I think that ever existed. And the mission was very simple: taking this professional, medical laser and translating it. They just found that LEDs just exploded around the world. They found out that they can have this wavelength, that they can replace lasers basically as far as most of the therapeutic benefits. And now they had a mission on how to translate it to a consumer good, D2C, what we call direct to consumer. Yep. And that was a big challenge, because just put yourself in a situation where let's just think of any modality that goes from it could go through a paradigm shift. So I built the sales force, the sales teams, and everything around that, all the language around kind of explaining it to the end consumer. And that company got sold in the end. So that was my first experience with going full circle from something that was a type of a startup to exiting basically. Um, you know, and by then I was very interested in wellness. The red light therapy field. Obviously, back then we didn't have titles like biohacking or health optimization. It was mainly self-quantification was the big phrase back then. And one of the annoying things is that it's very hard to measure the effects of red light therapy. You can measure nitric oxide levels that are increasing because of it, but more than that, you really can't. So we had a really challenging and interesting time translating the entire thing. And I'll tell you one thing. I never had the idea that we're going to have a skincare company, or that I'm going to be engaged in beauty. Far from it. I've been, again, martial arts my whole life. I was getting punched in the face as a hobby. So it wasn't my preoccupation. But when, discussing red light therapy with the end consumer, and we did a lot of that, we found out that you can go through all the pain mitigation and muscle priming and thyroid benefits that you can imagine. But what really moved the needle is when you told people their skin can look better.
Yes.
So I understood that there is a kind of a hack there to get to people to get people to have better health if you tell them they're going to look better at the end of the day. And that kind of, I think, is what you alluded to a little bit when you talked about NAD and where NAD right now is in the space. And a lot of people are paying $700 for an NAD IV, but really what they would like to see at the end of the day is someone younger looking at them back in the mirror.
Yes.
Or at least not older. Yeah. So, we had some money in our pocket, Anastasia, my partner, my wife, and I. And we basically, we were obsessed with NAD at the time. We could afford it. Back then, it was over $1,000 per IV. And we were obsessed with it because it really made us feel, rejuvenated and full of vigor. But we understood that there is a huge chasm to be able to for everyone to afford it. So actually, what we tried to do is to bypass IVs. We tried to get NAD to absorb through the skin and into your bloodstream and into your body. But what we found out, and I think this is a big discussion in and on its own, we found out that the skin, not only that it really needs it, it also really likes it. It's not going to share. We can get it to absorb into the skin, but the cells there are just going to gobble it up. So you can kind of exhaust the amount that the skin can absorb, but it's going to use all of it rather than share it with your bloodstream, if you would. So that's how we made lemonade out of lemons. We said, we have a great thing here, and everything kind of connects. I remembered that, we were talking to people about their skin health when we were trying to get them to have this stand in front of this panel for 10, 20 minutes a day. And I understood, well, we have something here. Maybe we can, support people's health journey through using the molecules that are the most innovative in the longevity space. And we keep doing that, but give them really what they want in the end. Tell them, this is a molecule. Yeah, you should take it orally. Yeah, you should get an IV. But also, here you go, exactly what you want. You want more NAD around your eye because you have crow's feet? Apply it right there. And by now we have 17 products because we've, as we know, this is not a silver bullet. Like there is no silver bullet in the aging game, especially the larger and the more complex the organism is, such as ourselves. So we keep pushing the envelope.
I love that story. It parallels so much of my story, actually.
Really?
Back in 2005, so I started the company in 2004. In 2005, we started distributing a skincare laser for at-home use from Germany, from Burr. It was called the soft laser. And it was like one of the first ones you could buy at home that had an actual red laser diode. It wasn't even LED. The FDA, after a while, was like, you can't do that because you'll shine in your eyes and blind people. But we were even before the FDA came in, and we were doing that. And then probably a decade ago, my father and I went to visit a NAD clinic that was using NAD for recovery from
Mm-hmm.
addiction. And we said there are so many different applications of this beyond just drug addiction and withdrawal. It's like you're feeding the cells,
Mm-hmm.
you're feeding the brain in a sense. And we have so many patients at the time with Lyme disease and brain fog, cognitive dysfunction. And so we saw that, but we also realized that this is difficult for people to really get these on a regular basis, and everyone could use this. We're depleted of NAD from everything from alcohol, stress, toxins, all these things. So we create a supplement, off of that, trying to build it in and take it in orally. But I've always said, any way you can get NAD into the cells, try and do it.
Yeah.
Because it's as important as oxygen to the body. When you speak with actual people, understand that, of course, oxygen, but it's used by every single cell.
I'll even argue maybe it's more important if you took oxygen out of the body, you're going to survive longer than if you took NAD completely out of the body, magically, obviously. So,
yes.
With NAD, you're going to be dead in 30 seconds. I think oxygen, you can, if you deprive the brain from oxygen, you can, I don't know, live 11 minutes or something. So,
right.
Yeah.
David Blaine did it for like 15 or something, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about this. How'd you come up with the name Young Goose? I always like hearing about names of companies.
Well, that's an interesting story because, again, that was not planned. We had a plan, or I was infatuated with the name Hormesis. Obviously, maybe, due to my red light therapy background. So Hormesis, obviously, stress that leads to positive results, such as red light therapy. So that was the name of the company or the research entity that we had. And when we wanted to basically register it in the United States, because the lab was in Israel. So when we wanted to register the trademark in the United States, we found out that it already is registered as a supplement. So, a trademark has to be in a specific category. So we could, but we said, what if we wanted to do supplements one of those days? What if the company that has the supplements that are called Hormesis isn't a good company and it's going to get conflated with us? So we had, because of those parameters, we're like, oh my God, we need to find like a very unique name. And something that's very interesting, the Weizmann Institute, where the discovery of the NAD precursors that we use was done. There were geese outside the lab, and we regarded it as our mascot, because geese, they reach maturity. It's like 2-3 years, and they just don't look older until one day, obviously, they drop dead. But for that, for their majority of their life, they look completely the same. So, the mother has geese chicks, and then they grow up and they look exactly like the mother, and you don't know which one's older.
Yep.
So that was kind of the mascot, right? We don't want to look older. We want to look exactly the same. So I think we added the word young because maybe a skincare company called Goose is kind of too weird. So Young Goose was born just as an idea of a youthful, youthful connotation to it. But it was just a silly name that we rolled with, and it stuck. A lot of people
I love it.
A lot of people don't like it, actually. Like,
oh yeah,
a lot of a lot of people have an opinion and they like giving it, and you know what, I like allowing them to give it. I think it's
Sure.
I think it's the same thing as compliment, right? That people like to be heard. But we do have a lot of like celebrity clients and things like that, and that obviously they have they feel that they have the prerogative to reach out if they think something's. So we actually met a few of them, and they're like, "You should change the name. The name is not good." We have an influencer has millions of followers that uses our products. She obviously wants money to talk about it, so that's why. But she uses our products, and she's like, "That's the name is too long. People don't like to think for that long. You should have a shorter name." So that's fine.
They all think they're Sean Parker, right? Who's giving like drop the in Facebook.
Yes. Well, yes, exactly. But I'll tell you what, at least they're talking about it.
Oh yeah, no, it's funny. Sometimes I tell people like, oh, I work at Innovative Medicine. It's the New York Center for Innovative Medicine. Like, too long, too long. I'm like, okay,
That I
you still
dropped the
come here,
new.
right? You still get treatment here. Like, does the
Yes.
name even matter that much? It's kind of what's behind the name, I think, that
Uh-huh.
matters really. But I get it. Marketing, matters.
Yeah.
Long words matter. We have a very short attention span, so we
Uh-huh.
want one thing alone. But now, one of the things I read that I wanted to get into, it's like you say your treatments are genetically programmed. Can you go
Mhm.
into that? What does that mean to you?
Well, what we're saying is that we correspond with your skin on an epigenetic level,
Hmm.
and we lower what we like to say is the functional age of the skin. I actually don't like the word biological age, and I can get to why that definition matters to me a little
Yep.
bit later. But what we see in skincare a lot is the phrasing lower the appearance of something, whatever that is, wrinkles or whatever.
Hmm.
And that obviously partly is because of the FDA. You don't want to create a claim that then can be misleading.
Sure.
But in general, we wanted something that is measurable. And that's something that you need to ask yourself. You're going to do a study. What am I really measuring? Like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm going to measure your, for example, the lowering of senescent cells, zombie cells, basically
Hmm.
malfunctioning cells of a certain type that is infectious in your body. Okay, so you measured them. So the if what, right? What do I get the end consumer from that? So we try to have a lot of vantage points when we look at our product and what it does. So just because I gave the example of the of clearing senescent cells, so we have a serum. It's called ProCare, and it clears senescent cells. And we don't only measure that. We don't only measure like the process that happens in the cell that allows to do that, but we also measure, for example, 14 different genes that have been associated with a decline of youthful state in the skin. So collagen, obviously, everyone knows. Elastin, like the name, imbues the skin with elasticity. And it's another protein. So we have collagen, we have elastin, and we also have hyaluronic acid production, which is programmed. So it's not only an injectable for your lips to look bigger. It actually also is something that helps your skin hold on to moisture.
Hmm.
So we can measure and some genes that are not necessarily creating those proteins in hyaluronic acid, but utilizing them because that's a different process. It's you have a brick maker and a brick layer, right? Um, so we can measure those things, and we do it through punch biopsy. That's one thing. We measure, for example, there's something called progerin, which is the pro-aging protein, so we can measure its activity or we can measure its levels. If anyone wants a reference to progerin, if anyone remembers the old Robin Williams movie where he grows really old really fast,
Mm.
I
Hmm.
don't know why they made him grow also taller in the movie. That's not part of the disease, but it's called progeria. It's when you have too much of that protein too fast, so your skin can't clear it out, and your body can't clear it out. So we can measure different things, and what we like to measure is the truth, as we call it, and the truth is your epigenetics.
Hmm.
Um, so that is to us the ultimate truth, and that is why we interact with your skin on an epigenetic level. And by the way, we're not the only ones who do that. I mean, niacin, for example, or niacinamide, which is is a staple ingredient in skincare, does it to some extent.
Hmm.
Um, Different peptides that are patented that we use, which is not our patent. I mean, they're a little bit expensive. That's why other companies shy from using them. But there are peptides who affect collagen genes as well. That is just our, I would say, mission statement or our guiding principle that allows us to build a company around it. In another company, their guiding principle can be something else, maybe a good scent
Hmm.
or a good experience for the user. Even though we care about those things, that's not the first priority we have. So I think it's more about our sets of beliefs and us knowing if the product works or not in that way, rather than something that we can say we are the only ones in the world who do fill in the blank. There are
Right.
things that we are the only ones in the world who do, but it's not necessarily affecting the genes.
Right. No, I appreciate that, and that understanding that we are epigenetic creatures, not just genetic ones, right? We really,
Yeah,
our
that's
environment and our actions matter much more in some ways.
yeah, that's like the biological version of nature versus nurture, you know.
Yes. Yeah. So tell me about the first product that you guys formulated for Young Goose. Do you
Hmm.
remember that?
Yes. So actually, I glazed over, you know, how did we occupy ourselves? So R&D, we're not the one doing it. We're the one hiring.
Hmm.
We're not the ones in the lab for the most part. Even though Anastasia, my wife, is a pretty pop. I mean, she's an amazing biologist, but that allows you also to know who knows their business, right? To allow us to hire well. But what we did to fill up our time is we had a consultancy to help other startups pivot from this point of B2B to a B2C product. So business to business, selling it to practitioners, for example, and pivot to selling it to consumers. Today, it's a little bit redundant because today you literally have, you know, websites that's their job. Like you go there because these are things that normally the physician sells you or buys themselves, but you can bypass that by going to full script or whatever that is, right? So today we wouldn't have a job for the most part, but back then it was very popular. And one of
Hmm.
the things that we helped was a company that had one patent, which was a fermented resveratrol. So resveratrol is the Robin to NAD's Batman. And we talked a little bit about replenishing cells and allowing cells to function properly. So we can think of NAD as repair fuel, but we can think of resveratrol as the gas pedal for DNA repair, etc. So um, we knew that companies who use resveratrol are doing it insincerely because resveratrol is actually toxic for the skin. The
Mm.
skin actually cannot break it down like your gut would because it doesn't have the enzyme to do it. And it becomes toxic very fast. So through that patent of that company, fermentation allows us to bypass that, to make it so your skin can break it down. And we really liked that patent. So, you know, fast forward a couple of years later when we start research for our topical NAD, so this skincare, we realized there is no ability for now to get it transdermally at the time. We have to have a skincare product. We're like, wow, we know this patent. That's, you know, serendipitous. We know this patent that would go incredibly well with that. So we one of the things that I think are the smartest things we did it was sign an exclusivity deal with that small, you know, now they own 5 patents, but they're all around the same fermented resveratrol. So sign a contract with them saying, hey, we're the only ones that can combine it with NAD precursors. And that has for now fended off everyone, including the largest players in skincare, from copying our product. And they are really trying. Unfortunately, they're really trying. So the first product was a combination of these two, the NAD precursors that are, you know, micronized, microencapsulated with lipids. So they're basically protected from being volatile. And this fermented resveratrol, and we still had room, right? Normally you end there because you want a cheap product or an affordable product. We said, hey, we're going all out. How can we improve that? So we added CoQ10, PQQ. We added a very mild senolytic that's called astragaloside IV or 4. If anyone knows, like the product TA65, which is a telomere lengthening or supporting supplement slash cream slash everything. That's actually what they discovered, that this extract is amazing for telomere length, but it is also a mild senolytic. So we added this, and also a very cool version of vitamin C, because we knew that's something that, not a lot of people know, but the ascorbic acid, the classic version of vitamin C, is probably the worst thing you can put on your skin. So we found that calcium ascorbate, which is a really cool version of vitamin C, and the first product was born. And that was a moisturizer. In hindsight, I actually had a discussion with a friend of mine that started a skincare company pretty recently, and they started with a serum. And I told him that's a very smart idea, because a moisturizer has a lot of expectation around it as far as like user experience. Is it hydrating enough? Is it too hydrating? Does it make me oily? Does it, a serum is basically only active ingredients. So in hindsight, that was not the right idea, but that was the first product we made. And that's called CARE, Cellular Anti-Aging Repair and Energy. That's the acronym. Then we made an eye cream version of that, which is called Eye Care. And
very clever.
Yeah. So these were the first two products. They were very costly in the beginning. So they cost like $300 each in the beginning. And when we became large enough to where we can, lower our costs, we did it pretty aggressively. So we lowered it to $98 each. And we said, hey guys, that's what we believe everyone in the world should use at minimum. So we're making it as affordable as we can. And to this date, we haven't raised prices. Obviously there was inflation and everything. We've never raised prices for this product, because we do believe that, if everyone can use whatever they want, this is the one product we think 90% of the people in the world should use.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it truly is a basis of quality determines results in all things of life, really. Whether that's a car, that we spend a lot of money on that has quality and won't break down as much you expect. But in health, it seems to be the most important. We understand that when we, purchase things that are going to go intravenously, we're not looking at cut corners. We're purchasing from the top Swiss, German kind of pharmacies to get the best things, because we understand that will result in a better healing response for patients. So, it's something you never want to cut corners on, or the quality of the ingredients. And especially when it's something like skin, where it's visible.
Yeah.
You don't see things happening inside the body, unfortunately. You only get a feeling of something. Oh, my liver's maybe working a little better, and then energy pops up and other things subside, symptoms go away a little bit. But I wish people did see what their insides look like and what they're doing, because we always care about this, right? We always care about our skin and what we look like. And that's why I think people are okay with spending more in this realm.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would have been funny if people cared about the visuals of their liver as much as they care about the visuals of their skin. We're going to have for sure less NAFLD and NASH. But imagine also, people care about parts of their skin more than other parts. You don't care about the back of your knees and how wrinkly that is, but you care about, your forehead or the back of your hands. So imagine that was the same for your lungs. You're like, no, I like my upper lungs like really hot, but my lower lungs, I don't really care that much.
Oh, the vanity of organs, right? It's my frontal lobe that matters, not the medulla oblongata. Yeah, well, fortunately and unfortunately, in some ways, no one, does that. We don't pay too much, but we are paying attention to this. And one of the things that you see a lot are people struggling with skin conditions and people struggling with things like acne and eczema and all other things. How are your products, impacting people with skin conditions?
So they're, they are an amazing tool to deal with some of those things. And we have seen incredible results for eczema, psoriasis, dermatitis, but they do not work as fast as an over-the-counter or prescription drug. And the reason is kind of what I alluded to when we started this conversation, is that we really look at fixing the underlying mechanism rather than giving you the immediate results that you're looking for. And it's funny because when we were still in research stage, I was invited to give a talk in a very small symposium that's called Advancements in dermatology, something like that.
Mhm.
I don't remember, but anyway, and these were the top dermatologists and researchers in the United States. And I got to sit with the head of dermatology for Harvard. And I asked her, and obviously back then, I would say leaky gut as an acceptable term
Mhm.
was just becoming something that people don't like laugh at you directly at you if you mention leaky gut or gut permeability. And I asked her, so I was obsessed with it, obviously. And I asked her, so when someone comes to you with eczema psoriasis, are you looking at their gut permeability? Do you check for leaky gut? And she said, "Are you crazy?" She literally asked me, "Are you crazy? I have 15 minutes to find out what's wrong and give them a solution.
Yeah.
And I work on reviews." Like, and that, shocked me because,
Mhm.
back then also Uber was new. So I immediately was like, wow, she cares about reviews as much as like an Uber driver. So that shocked me.
Yeah.
But these are the rules of the game.
Yes.
Obviously, she's whatever, she plays a game, and these are the rules. So you really can't hate the players, as we say. You need to fix the game.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. Listen, I've been in healthcare, medicine kind of my whole life because both my parents are doctors and just grew up around doctors and learning a lot. My father started off very conventionally,
Hmm.
anesthesia, surgery, chief of pain medicine at a big hospital. It was all drugs, surgery, scalpels, everything. And he was like a revolving door. The more
Yeah.
I saw, the better, but it had to be quick. I couldn't give him that talk and spiel about their gut, their lifestyle.
Yeah.
He knew it. Other doctors didn't even care.
Hmm.
They were like, no, stop talking about diet. Just give them the damn pill and get them out, right? They'll feel
Yeah.
better. You're doing your job. And it was so dehumanizing. I think, hearing all of that
Yeah.
and then
For sure.
seeing that these aren't people with bad intentions. These aren't people, they got into medicine because they want to help. My father knew from a young age. He just went a different route after that and said, I got to get out of this system because
Yeah.
this system is keeping me in that way of just quick results, patch it up. Here's a crutch, you're better. Now come back when you're worse and we'll give you another crutch or a wheelchair, right?
Yeah.
And not truly healing, which is a long-term game of ups and downs in some ways.
Well, going back to my journey as a, as a basically as a COO of a red light therapy company, um, we were we were kind of playing that really touch point between catering to physicians and catering to end consumers. And I remember going from giving a talk at a paraplegic oriented physical therapy conference and talking about phantom pain and how we can help people, and really you know looking at real stories of real individuals, to being a visitor at Becker's is actually an incredible um series of conferences that are mainly designed to change the face of medicine. But I mean, they're trying to do good. But one of them is a CEO CFO hospital roundtable. So you get to meet like the I don't know, the head of Mount Sinai or
Yep.
whatever. And that just juxtaposition between like looking at these people who really care about helping the individual, to then looking at people who the individual they're trying to help is their shareholder.
Hmm.
It was mind blowing to me. And you understand that really the people such as your father, or people that we were working on with, as far as paraplegic, their ceiling is extremely low.
Hmm.
Like, you cannot create a movement from within the system,
Yes.
um, because the parameters, again, that you're allowed to navigate within aren't very, you know they're not very loose. So it's almost like you have to find a way to break out of that system in order to create a big change.
Yeah. I completely agree that, listen, I've been saying it for so long. It's a sick care system.
Hmm.
It's not a healthcare, has nothing to do with health. It's a cost plus kind of system in many ways. There are shareholders involved that require profits. And unfortunately, sick people are more profitable, if you're
Yeah.
constantly, keeping them sick.
Well, it's not even so. I think we can definitely, take a look at the system and feel good that we're not part of it. But really, us as human beings, we're kind of designed for that because, again, having a skincare company and trying to educate people to change the fundamental way their skin functions and that the results are going to come from that. And not only that, is that whatever decision they're making today, they're definitely determining how they're going to look tomorrow and obviously in 10 years and 20 years is a uphill battle because really 9 out of 10 times someone listens to you patiently or not patiently and then asks, okay, so when can I see results about the wrinkles between my forehead and my whatever, So we do have answers for that because we understand that at the end of the day, we want to have people using the product and getting results long term. But you can see how this is the psyche that we all as human beings live with, especially if it's not your number one priority. I mean,
Mhm.
if you talk to a parent about their child and the child's screaming and throwing a tantrum, obviously, if the parent explains to you why they don't want to just give the child like a laptop and chocolate and not a laptop, iPad and chocolate and an ice cream and I don't know what, and just give him whatever he wants all the time because then it's not going to lead to good results long term. But that is because that's their number one priority and it's something that they're dealing with day in, day out.
Right.
I don't know. Wrinkles are probably number 10.
Yeah.
They only meet them when they look in the mirror. And how often do you do that, right? Um, so for number 10, they don't want the big spiel. You know,
Hmm.
it is up to us to create that middle ground of good user experience, good quick results, and long-term results, which is where we believe, people should be looking at. But again, that is really like, to be honest, that's kind of not a non-profit, if you would.
Yeah.
That's not something that we're doing for immediate gains. It's more for the culture, if you would.
Yeah, I will say that wrinkles probably went up a few spots during the pandemic because of
Uh-huh.
Zoom, right? Everyone was looking at them. Like I see myself in the corner there. I'm trying to look at you, but I'm also there.
Yeah.
And people like Botox and plastic surgery went skyrocketing up because you're right. A lot of people weren't looking in the mirror for most of the day. When you're on
Hmm.
a Zoom, you kind of are, and you're seeing things and other people are seeing it too.
Yeah.
So has business been better for you because of that?
It's definitely the questions have changed, but what we're starting to see is, yeah. So first of all, a lot of the questions are around how do I improve, the results of
Yeah.
Botox, how I make Botox last longer.
Yep.
What are the ways in which I can mitigate the potential harm of Botox,
Mhm.
etc. So in fillers and different types of aggressive lasers and radio frequency and
Yeah.
all the shebang. So for example, I was just interviewed in Ben Greenfield's podcast, and obviously it's Ben. He has a very wide array of interests and in questions, and I mentioned like in passing the fact that you might not want to do aggressive resurfacing lasers
Mhm.
constantly because you're depleting some of the reservoirs of repair for that, and you're basically introducing frailty and obviously long term. And I've now spoken about that as much as I've spoken about it there. We have gotten, I'm not kidding you when I say we have gotten thousands of questions about that.
Mm.
Out of everything we said and about diet and whatever, that was what was interesting to people. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, I was about to do laser tomorrow," and blah blah, and I've been doing this. So that is the situation we're living in today. But to your point, by the way, about how the modern world changed some things, what we're starting to see are much younger people, but where our
Yeah.
product, we're saying be coming from the NAD realm, you are not really in an NAD deficiency if you're living a healthy life until you're like 30.
At least, yeah.
At least, yeah. And I would argue you might want to wait with like, getting an IV maybe until you're like 35,
Yeah.
Um, but we're starting to see, 22-year-olds
Hmm.
asking us about, what should I use after I use Botox?
Hmm.
And I'm not kidding. And fillers and obviously things like that. And that is not necessarily because of Zoom. What happens is they are using filters in social media and
Hmm.
they want to look like their filter.
Yeah.
So they
Unrealistic expectations.
unrealistic, but also unrealistic facial structure. So
Yeah.
they're trying to augment the facial structure to look like the filter rather than the opposite because they're, most of the people seeing them, they don't know them. They know the filter.
Hmm.
So,
Right.
then
And
you
then you see
gotta,
someone in real life, it's like, oh, okay, that's not
oh, okay.
you.
No.
And
And we
then
know
you
some
want to
people
be
like
that
that.
filter. You want to be the AI characterization of yourself, right?
Yeah.
That looks so well. But I think a lot of the vanity metrics have changed in general. But I do think, medicine, skincare, beauty, they all kind of echo themselves, meaning you have younger and younger people that are seeking out these types of solutions. You have younger and younger people that are sick. That's what
Yeah.
we see. It's kind of
Yeah.
shocking. We work in a place where it's out of pocket. Most people start on the conventional side and end up here as a,
Yeah.
last chance. Uh-oh, nothing else worked. We need some integrative, holistic approach. But it used to be that, really chronically ill people were a little bit older.
Yeah.
You're seeing them now, teenagers, right? You're seeing kids in their 20s or so have chronic illness, but still trying to emphasize the look. And I think there's just such a correlation of your skin is an expression of what's
Yeah.
going on inside. That idea of eczema, all these different are really inside out sort of issues most of
Hmm.
the time.
Yeah.
And so that's a big part of it is like, if you're healthy, then your skin should be healthy. And it goes both ways. You should put things on your skin that nourishes and put things inside of you that will nourish from the inside out.
Yes.
Which brings me to this idea of, the leaky gut, the GI system as a whole, diet. What are you seeing or what do you recommend as a diet for skin? I mean,
Yeah.
everyone's different, right? But we can't personalize on a podcast. We have to give some generalizations.
Well, I think the first thing is to say, look at go have a genetic test and understand, you can look at between like 5 to 20 genes that will tell you how you should supplement and eat to your
Hmm.
specific deficiencies. How well you metabolize folic acid to folate, etc. So you could do that, and maybe you should start there in any age, by the way, and that's something you do only once.
Hmm.
But in general, an anti-inflammatory diet is probably the most important thing that you can do is
Yeah.
basically figure out what creates inflammation in your body and what does not, and adjust your diet accordingly. After that, it's obviously when I say the word protein, most people think of one ingredient or collagen, by the way. So most people think of this one ingredient. If I asked you to imagine a protein, you would probably imagine some generic molecule. Insert generic molecule here. But really, I suggest looking at a protein as like a multivitamin of amino acids,
Hmm.
which are needed, which your body breaks the protein into, and then utilizes it in order to synthesize its own protein. So, for example, when my joke is you're not taking collagen to improve the wrinkle between your eyebrows, the same way you're not eating a banana expecting to be a unicorn, right? It's like that's not how your body processes things. It
Yeah.
actually, your body doesn't have a single nutrient in which it's going to use it as a whole. You're going to give it to it as a whole. We were talking about NAD a second ago, NAD IV. Your body takes that NAD that you've been intravenously introducing into your body, and it breaks it down into its it's precursors, it's building blocks. So your body doesn't really know how to do a full, transportation. And going back to protein, that is extremely important when we're talking about nutrition, because proteins are the most important building blocks that you can introduce through nutrition in my eyes. High protein intake, when I say high, I mean around a gram per pound of body weight, would be extremely beneficial for our skin, and by the way, for our gut, which would obviously then translate to good skin. And if you want some kind of cool ingredient, I would say sulfur compounds, such as moringin, which you get from moringa, or sulforaphane, sulforaphane and myrosinase. So basically, like broccoli sprouts or broccoli. If you want to get it like super bioavailable, you sprinkle some mustard seed powder on it. That would be something that would also allow you to get some more glutathione in your system, so more antioxidant ability for your body. So that would be like a little side note. But for the most part, like high protein, lower carb, like 20% carb, and things that don't inflame you.
Yeah. I think so much of it comes down to reduce inflammation.
Yeah.
And just take in nutrient absorption is, and so much of that is just eat clean, stop eating box packages. I saw this thing that I think in Austria, they have the first vegan supermarket, and they showed pictures, and it was just all box crap. There wasn't a single vegetable or fruit, like whole thing there. And it was just companies that are making these plant-based that have so many ingredients, preservatives. It has nothing to do with like plants anymore at all. It's more chemically based in plastics that they're leaching into. It's just a joke that this is now what we consider healthy, is the more chemically based, like little things that never go expire for years.
Yes, 100%. Well, there are two things from what you're saying, which are completely different topics, but are like super important. The first thing, just connecting to our last kind of topic, your body is really good at taking whatever you're giving it and using it correctly. So the major thing is, unfortunately, is not to be in a caloric surplus. So if too much of a good thing isn't good. So as long as you're within, I can tell you don't eat sugar, go high carb, low carb, whatever. But as long as you're within your caloric kind of count, what your body should be getting, your body can actually do a really good job, translating one thing to another. So for example, your body can take protein, and if you have a lot of protein, it can actually make sugars out of it. And so having said that, a completely unconnected, anecdote to what you're saying is that we can see how plant-based or vegan has been hijacked by business, right? By big business to create those things that the fact that the word based is there is kind of weird. It's not plants, but it's based on plants. It's like, that's already extremely suspicious to me. I've never seen, any meat-based product ever that doesn't exist. So that's to me a hijacking of a word. And if we go here in America to any Costco, we can see things that say something like paleo friendly or keto friendly, which is, what is it, a relationship with keto? I don't get it. But it is again hijacking of the word. And coming from the biohacking sphere, I'm really worried that that's going to happen with biohacking as well. I mean, and it probably will. I'm just hoping it won't. But maybe in 5 years, every macadamia covered chocolate covered macadamia nut in Costco is going to say biohacking friendly macadamia or something.
Well, I think biohacking in general is garnering attention. Some of the things, we even talk about things like peptides. I mean, already big pharma's looking to, tap into that. And anywhere where people see an opportunity to make money, they'll try and hijack it and unfortunately, like biohacking is getting to that point where
Well, I
I
think
think there's enough people there that really are interested. There is a wave of people that are health conscious, that want to live longer, that want to do these things. And with that wave, you're going to see a lot of opportunists come along.
yes, because really biohacking, and just because of the people who are interested in it, which are kind of early adopters, and the fact that if you're really interested, there's no medical condition that calls on biohacking. Some people have discovered it as part of their health journey,
Hmm.
but they maybe discovered that what they're doing that makes them feel better is, you know, is within the biohacking sphere, and then they feel part of the community and they go into the community.
Yeah.
But as a community, it's more going towards pleasure community rather than going away from fear, which is again presenting for a long time in ketogenic conferences. I see the opposite in the ketogenic, sphere, which is, you know, just don't give me anything that has carbs in it because I'm afraid of being overweight or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. Um, Here, these people are motivated by pleasure for the most part. And that means that they're also very good consumers.
Hmm.
And normally they have spare income. And that is why they even are bothered with it to begin with. If you have existential, threats, you're not worried about how well you're going to function at 90. And by the way,
Yeah.
that's part of the problem in America.
Okay.
So this is a very easily hijacked group of people. I mean, we see when we're starting to see it. We can see it live, whether it is a company, very big or not very big, but very successful company in the field, with one ingredient really that they didn't even patent, but they did a good job marketing, that was bought by Nestle.
Hmm.
Whether it is um, the GLP-1 agonists, for example, which are peptides. So Wegovy,
Hmm.
semaglutide, Ozempic.
Ozempic, yep.
What I'm saying right now are basically the same thing. What they are pro-peptides. They're
Yeah.
causing the release of a peptide. And that is really the only way for you to kind of hijack that system, because you cannot patent most peptides. So
Hmm.
what does Big Pharma do? They lobby to get them basically banned
Hmm.
because they're not researched enough or whatever. Of course they're not, because there's no financial interest to do that.
Yeah.
But what they're doing is they're banning the actual peptide, but they're saying, oh, but wait, we have a patented synthetic pro-peptide, something that will make you release. Remember that peptide you like so much? Here, you can now have your body release it.
Yeah.
So we're seeing that take over in real time. We see the same thing with exosomes,
Hmm.
even though I have really good friends with Chimera Labs. We can see that big player in exosomes kind of trying to lobby to get them basically illegal, but in a way which would allow them to still function. So you really can see it in almost every phase of biohacking right now.
Yeah. And that's kind of the modality they run on. It
Yeah.
is looking at something, removing it, right?
Yeah.
You even saw it during, you had NAC that was being
Hmm.
attacked during the pandemic because it actually works somewhat.
Yeah.
And then now you're seeing it with other NMN, is
Hmm.
kind of in that same region
Yeah.
of being, reviewed now
Yeah.
by the FDA, which was really pushed through, pharmaceutical companies and
Well, yeah,
biotech.
that was the perfect. I mean, if someone wants to write a game plan
Hmm.
on how to penetrate a market and then really like drop the floor under the market, was
Yep.
NMN. I mean, obviously you have this huge figurehead that is buddy buddy with everyone going on Joe Rogan's podcast or whatever, and showing the world how amazing this molecule is, which it is.
Hmm.
But then, unbeknownst to anyone, he has notified the FDA or the company. He's just a
Well,
scientific.
it's his company in many
Yes,
ways,
yes, yes,
right? Let's be
yes,
honest.
100%, 100%. So, maybe not 100%, but maybe like 40%.
Yeah, whatever. Big money
Yes,
invested, right? So a lot of
yes.
interests there.
Yes. And then, saying to the FDA, hey, remember, we actually told you we're researching it as a drug like, 10 years ago. So, yeah, please tell everyone that they can't use it as a supplement. And that's the way that this. So this was really the perfect. I mean, in some extent, you got to kind of applaud the
Oh yeah.
attempt there. And by
The
the way,
execution is like, wow, that was like flawless. And
wow,
listen, I was, and I'll say I was a big fan of David Sinclair. Like I
yeah,
loved everything he was putting out there, like being in this,
yeah,
anti-aging and everything. But man, people like kind of show true colors. And I'm not saying he's a bad person or anything. Money's money. It'll make you do certain things. But I
yeah.
am saying in healthcare, I feel very differently.
Mm.
If you're doing like a designer clothing, if you want to like, and get cheap labor somewhere, maybe not the most moral, but I have a little difference of opinion when it comes to people that could really benefit from something and you're basically removing it completely from there and trying to profit off of it.
Yeah, I mean, there is another, there is another way to do it, which then people can say, "Hey, I like this way better," or not. Which is what is another molecule that is almost identical to NMN. It's called NR,
Yeah.
and NR. Both of these molecules, they can't really be patented, but a stable form of them can be. So NR, nicotinamide riboside chloride, which is the supplement that almost all of us are taking if we're taking NMN, is actually patented. And the company who patented it, which is called Chromadex,
Yeah.
they aren't, trying to, they obviously have investors, they have things that they're doing, like sponsoring research saying that NR is better than NMN. Fine, you can do that.
Sure.
But again, they're not doing anything as insincere as,
Not as insincere, but there was the whole lawsuit with Elysium Health and others that were trying to utilize, right? So, I mean, this is business. I get it. I understand that. That's what I went to school for, and understand that you want to protect things you're putting money into and this and that. It's just a strange one. I mean, listen, I've gone as far as getting, legal kind of statements from other companies that they have the patent on cat's claw, which is a natural, product you find. And they were like, you can't use it with with anything in brain health because it's ours.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't think so. I'm not sure you could do that. But, again, nothing came of it. But I'm just saying this idea that we're getting to like go out in nature and be like, that's ours. That it's Bacopa. It's good for the brain. That's ours now. We're going to patent, we're do some research, put in the funds under it, get investors, and then take it away from everyone else. And then, you kind of have free reign on, how much you're going to charge. We see that all the time. It was the big pharma bro who's like, all right, I'll just get this company and jack it up 10,000%. What are people going to do? They got to pay for it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we see it in skincare a lot, because in skincare, first of all, it's the wild, wild west. I can basically, the scrutiny as far as the FDA is concerned is close to negligence. The discrepancy in active ingredients is worse than the difference between like McDonald's meat and the meat you can buy in Whole Foods. And the same thing with IVs, same thing with supplements, obviously. So within that field, your litigious power is the only thing that matters. So you can patent basically, or you can, even trademark basically things that have been used for centuries, or things that are very close to the form of the plant that it's been derived from. But because you have very strong litigious power, you can basically corner the market. So in the beauty field, that is very apparent. And sometimes what we do is say, cool, how much is it going to cost us, a small company that is really interested in innovating? Oh, it's going to cost me, basically it's going to cost the end consumer $2 more. No problem. I'll do that. I'll pay you. I'll buy the active ingredients from you. I'll make sure they're in good quality, etc. But I'll buy them from you, and I'm not going to go into this stupid legal battle, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can't win every war.
No, and you got to pick your battles, of course, and just kind of that is business in many ways. Again, and I understand that. It's sometimes a little bit sad when the business gets in the way of helping people, especially people in need. when you get into medicine, it's kind of sometimes life-saving things are stripped away and jacked up in prices, and it becomes battles and everything, and people suffer because of it. So listen, I want to kind of wrap things up a little bit here, and you have a great podcast, Biohacking Beauty. I wanted to hear, what have been the kind of best tips that you've been able to wrangle through being a host of a podcast called Biohacking Beauty that you could share?
That's actually something I've been asking myself lately. Like, what is the, what can someone learn from if they've listened to every episode, right? So I would say first, if we are talking about, women specifically, because we do have a lot of differences between men and women and the way our biology works. And unfortunately, men it's not even comparable how much we are better test subjects, because women have a completely or a very different hormonal profile, basically every phase of their menstrual cycle. So it's not really every week of the month, but let's just say every week of the month. And I would say for women specifically, learning to live your life in harmony with your menstrual cycle and the hormonal profile you have at that time of the month is probably the most important thing long-term you can do for your health. So that's as far as like women specific. I would say, and that's probably something you hear a lot, but I agree with that. I think sleep is the best supplement we can have. We talked before about, we need to have the right caloric intake, etc. But really, what determines how well we function, how well we recover, how well we, repair our cells, our body's maintenance work is mainly done during sleep. And that is something that in the Western, world, not only that we're not getting enough of, we're also not interacting with our body and the way that it interacts with the world in a way which supports good sleep. So obviously, like light hygiene and winding down and all of the things that are conducive to a good night's sleep are extremely important. And everyone in their own world should, regard themselves as a professional athlete as far as how they recover, etc. So that's, to me, very, very important. Obviously, we talked about leaky gut and gut permeability. And that is, I think, is at the root of almost all illness. Inflammation in general, but inflammation that is coming from your gut is something that everyone should obviously take care of. And if we're talking about skin specific, I would say that our ability to detox is a big, big, big factor in how our skin looks, how our skin functions, and obviously through that, how our body looks and functions. So, having the ability to detoxify well and supporting that, whether it is through, products, whether it is through protocols, but also things like being in a sauna, working out, moving our body so we have good lymphatic drainage, etc. This is a part of it. Yeah.
No, I love those. And those are simple ones, right? Those aren't any kind of like, you need this device for 20,000 to be healthy. No.
Inject yourself every day with
two
stem cells.
Yeah,
exactly.
Into every area of your body over and over. No, I mean, health is really at its foundation somewhat simplistic. I found that follow nature more. Like you said, sleep, right? When the sun's down, start to wind down. When it's up, start to get up. Like, it's really simple. It's free.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of effort, I guess. But those are like the simplest things you could do. Move, walk around, get outside in the sun. These are the foundations of health, because everyone thinks it's very expensive. I'll say being in a disease state is expensive.
Correct.
But just preserving your health or doing healthy things is actually quite simple and cheap. So listen, where can people learn more about you, about Young Goose, purchase the products, everything?
So thank you for that. So you can buy our products online, younggoose.com. That is probably where you could also learn about each product and kind of what it does. We have a quiz that you can take. It's extremely quick. There's a supplement company that it takes like 15 minutes to get through the quiz. So
we're building out one right now, and yeah, it's like, how do you condense it to make it as easy? Because no one wants to do like a half-hour thing that like goes through every portion of your life.
Yeah. So thankfully in skincare, there are companies that are telling you, oh yeah, we're making products exactly for you. Fill up this quiz, you're going to get a product with your name on it. Really, they have vats in the back of their office, and they just fill in your bottle. So in skincare, it could be pretty easy to kind of get a program that's tailored to you. So you take a quiz, it takes you like 2 minutes, and you're basically you know what direction you need to go.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to completely nerd out about skin and about the ability to have better skin, again, we have the podcast. It's called Biohacking Beauty Podcast. And that is, if you have the patience to spend an hour and a half talking about vitamin C, that would be the podcast for you. Or we talked about genetics today, whatever that is. And our Instagram is extremely, well kept. So we do give a lot of information there. So it's young_goose_skincare on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Amitay. Really appreciate this conversation, connecting with you, going over a few different topics in skincare, which I always love to do. Have that natural conversation. We're obviously on the same mindset there with health, with skin, everything. So really appreciate this conversation, you taking the time.
Thank you very much. It's absolutely my pleasure.
And everyone listening, remember to be sure to check out younggoose.com for more information and purchase the products. And until next time, continue writing your own healing story.